In this video, you're going to learn how to take animations from a Mixamo character and get them applied over to your new MetaHuman, just like that. Let's first briefly go over the setup so you can follow along exactly so that you can learn the best by doing it yourself. So what we have here is just a third-person game template with starter content. So it opens up into this map, and then I have my Mixamo character that I got from the old Mixamo. If you're not familiar with that, just go to Mixamo, go to character, grab a character, download the T-pose. So you'll hit download the T-pose first, then come back and go over and find any animations that you want. When you download your animations, for this I would recommend actually getting your characters in place, and also when you download you don't need skin because you already have the skin with the T-pose character, so just say without skin and download that. So it's kind of two parts. Anyway, you're probably familiar with that. If not, now you are. And then for the character, I just went to the old Quixel Bridge, grabbed a MetaHuman. Now with the fancy new build your own MetaHuman out of your own mesh, you might even want to wait and do that real quick to bring it in. So again, all you do, if this is new for you, all you gotta do is go pick out your MetaHuman, build your own in the builder if you want, but just grab a character, download it. When it's done downloading, add it to your project, and then your MetaHuman will be here as well. So that's your setup of getting your assets. And then for Lola, I put her in her own folder, and I just dragged her right here, her skeletal mesh for here. And then for my MetaHuman, that's Vivian, I just dragged her blueprint in here. So that is how you can catch up to me quickly. So let's go over what you need to do to get animation from this character. Again, I brought in Lola by dragging that T-pose FBX into this folder, and then there she is. And then in the animation, I just made a folder called animation and dragged in the anim and targeted it to her skeleton, and then now I have these two folders here. So this was one of the two animations I brought in. She's just doing a sassy walk, and the other one, because I want to do one to show you something about fingers when we get there, is this walker. So we're going to really focus in on making sure the fingers are proper in that example. So let's get started. First thing we need to do is explain what happens when you transfer animation from this character to this character. Basically, you're translating what is this character doing and what are those motions that need to be applied to this character. Now notice they're not even the same size. How's that going to work? Well, we'll go over and fix all those kind of things when we get there. But the important thing basically is if this is called left shoulder and the instructions are turn the left shoulder 90 degrees, but this is called left clavicle, we need a way to translate between those 2 points. And also if this spine has 3 spine joints and this spine has 5 spine joints, how does it interpret between 3 and 5? So that's also something we're going to set up with joint chains. So step 1, we need to determine what are the setup for this character. So I'm going to right click, go to animation, and setting that up is called an IK rig. I have another video on that, so if you've seen that, that's kind of what we're doing here, but it's a little different because we got a MetaHuman now, and that's where it gets funky, but I'll do this real quick so you can see it as well. We also didn't do fingers in the original one, so we'll add fingers here. So I'm going to set up IK rig, target that towards Lola, and let's name this properly. And double click to open that. So this is where we can identify different joint chains and also what is going to be the retarget root. So we'll start with this field here that says retarget root. What do you want to use as the common transfer point between the two characters? So I'm going to say hips, set retarget root. You'll see that says hips. So now we just got to define the different joint chains. Again, I'm going kind of quick because I did this in another video, but I'll do it enough so that if you didn't see that, you're fine here. So those all said spine. I want to identify this spine chain, so I'm going to right click, retarget chain. It's going to be called spine, listed here, spine, and it starts at the spine bone and goes to the spine 2 bone. Notice that one says spine, that one says spine 2. It's kind of hard to read, but that's what it says. Then I'm going to do one for the neck, and it's called neck. There's only one neck joint, so there's not much of a option of which ones to pick there, and I'm going to do one for the head. All right, so now the shoulder to hand I can do in one shot here. So I got those 4 bones. Actually, a little trick here. I'm going to hide these so I can see more without having to scroll. I can also select the chain of the right side, which goes from the shoulder to the hand. Then while I'm at it, I can go from the leg to the foot. I'm just going to stop at the foot, and leg to the foot. I can do all these at once. If you right click, new retarget chain from selected bones. The head, must just still have this. I'll delete it in a second. The head must still be selected. I didn't notice that, but that's fine. We'll ditch it once I add it here. So left shoulder, you could rename this with the standard naming convention, but I'm going to leave it unnamed again because I like to show you how to fix things when things go weird. So we'll just call it left shoulder because that's what it would call it. Right shoulder, left upper leg, which technically, all right, fine. I'll get rid of the up so it's a little more easy to identify. So left leg and right leg, and I don't need the second head, so I'm going to hit the trash can to delete that. So now I've identified the major sections, but now I gotta actually come back and do the fingers while I'm here. So I'll open these back up. Again, I can do them all in one clean swoop when I select them all. So I'm going to come here. This goes from the left hand. Now you might say, should I go 1 through 4? Not actually, because the fourth joint doesn't really line up well with the Mixamo character because it doesn't really have the concept of a fourth joint over there, because the fourth joint on this side is kind of a dummy joint, so it's not really controlling any of the motion. So you actually just need 3, 3, 3. I'm holding control and selecting. That's all of those. Now for the thumb, 3 joints, 3 joints. Again, control, select, double check, make sure you're doing the right ones. Alright, so I got 10 of those, and new chain from selected. I'm going to save you the hassle of me renaming anything, but you can rename it if you want. So it says left and the name of the finger. That's good. So I'm adding all these joint chains now. And Lola is loaded up, so you can hit save. So the IK rig for Lola is ready. And the nice thing is, once you've done this, you don't have to do it again, unless you messed up. And close. Now here's the tricky part versus the other video I did of how to get the right skeleton, or where do you find, like, this is bluntly obvious, there's not much to choose from on the character, but MetaHuman's a little tricky. There's a lot of different moving parts. So let's first figure out what skeleton we need to be using. Now if I was looking at Lola here, I can right click and go to skeleton, and it'll say find skeleton, and all is good. It tells me that. But if I go to the MetaHuman, Vivian, right click, there's not really an option for find skeleton because there's a bunch of moving pieces in here. That's kind of the definition of a blueprint. It holds a bunch of moving pieces. So let's double click the blueprint to open it. Don't be scared if you haven't played with blueprints. Just think of it as a box of stuff. So blueprint is a box of stuff for Vivian. So double click. Once the blueprint loads, all we really care about is what's going on over here. This is the box of stuff. So there's root, body, face, and the legs and the feet and the torso. So if you go to the body section here and look over in your details, it tells you the skeletal mesh that is being used for this character, and that's the female. That's short for female, medium, underweight, body. So click on the little folder to browse to it in the content browser. That's really all we came here for, was to find where is the skeletal mesh. So I can close this now. And this is the location of the skeletal mesh. If you double click and look at it, you'll see it's actually not seemingly proper, but this is what we want to use. We'll add a preview mesh in a later step. Where you want to put your IK rig is kind of up to you as far as your own housekeeping. I'm going to put it right here. You can make a folder of your own collection of all your IK rigs or whatever, but I'm going to put it right here next to where the character is, just for speed really. Animation, IK rig, and F, Mead, Unwa body is what we're looking for. That's this one. And I'm gonna name this one MetaHuman IK rig, and double click and open it. So I don't even need to deal with the preview mesh now. I really just need to work on the skeleton. So again, I'm going to select the pelvis and set that as the root. Here you'll notice there's 5 spine joints versus the Mixamo has 3, and this is the beauty of the system. It will resolve the difference for you. It's comparing chains start and end not necessarily bone-to-bone matching. So this is an advantage over the older system. So I'm going to select those for the spine, 5 of them, right click, new link. So this is called Spine 01. My other one was called Spine. That's one of the reasons we have to do this, is they won't match up names. I could change the name here. Again, I'm going to leave it. If you're working with a bunch of people, you should probably standardize this kind of stuff. But again, I'm going to leave it to show you don't have to. You might have to fix something later, but you don't have to name it properly. This neck has 2 joints versus the Mixamo having 1, which is fine. Same, I'll leave that named what that is. And 1 for the head. All right, now we go from clavicle. Notice this one says clavicle, the other said shoulder. Again, I'm going to leave it. Arm, hand. I'm going to skip all these middle joints. Right click, new target. Going to leave it called clavicle left. And where's the right side? Clavicle, arm, and hand. Right click, new target. Okay, so that's that side. Let's skip the fingers for now and just get the main parts done. Go find some legs. There are a lot of joints in this character, but don't let it scare you. So we just need to go down to the foot. I'm not going to mess with toes or anything. And while I'm at it, I'll do the 2 for 1, do the left side as well. Right click, retarget. And, oh, did I have that selected again? That's fine. I'll delete it again. Maybe it's good for you to see this again. I leave the mistakes in for you. All right, so thigh right side, thigh left side. In the real world, maybe name that better, but again, it's fine. And here's our second clavicle I didn't need, so I'm going to delete that. So here's our major chains. Now I need to go back and pick up the fingers. So in the fingers, there are a lot to choose from. Same thing, we only need the 3, we don't need the metacarpal, but we can do the ring finger, ring 1, 2, 3. Skip all this other little tiny joints that are in there. Pinky, 1, 2, 3. Middle, 1, 2, 3. Thumb, 1, 2, 3. Index, 1, 2, 3. So that's the right side. Keep going. And going over to the left side, grab the thumb, 1, 2, 3. Ring, 1, 2, 3. I like to talk to myself while I do this. 1, 2, 3, so I can make sure I'm picking the right stuff. Middle, 1, 2, 3. Whoops, see? 1, 2, 3. And index, 1, 2, 3. So I should have 10 selection sets there between the left and the right hand, all the fingers. So right click, retarget chain. Ring on the right, pinky on the right, middle right, thumb right, and index right. So that's the right hand. Thumb left, ring left, pinky left, middle left, and index left. And that added all of those joint chains there. So save. The MetaHuman has been IK rigged. So hit save. Close that. So we're good. We've profiled each character. Now we need to use the retargeter to send this character's animation to this character. And we got to do little fixes while we're in there, but because it's coming from Lola to Vivian, I'm going to put the retargeter here with Lola. I'm going to right click, animation, IK retargeter. So the source is coming from, so it says pick IK to copy from, so it's coming from Lola, our Mixamo character. And it's, you can kind of think of it as her retargeting setup. So I'm going to call it Lola retargeter. You can change values of a retarget node, but this way it's just already ready for her. And then I'm going to double click to open it. This is where the action comes in. So it says here our IK rig asset is Lola. Target IK is our MetaHuman. Now we already built the MetaHuman IK rig. Ignore this one. It comes in there by default, but ignore that one. We wanted to make our own. And you'll see it comes in with just the hands. Now you're going to be doing some comparative motion between the two characters, and just the hands and ankle cuffs is probably a little minimal. So here's an option here for target mesh preview. So you can use a different mesh for that. So I'm going to grab the body skeletal mesh here. So at least we see something. When we see it on the actual character, we'll see everything is fine as well. This is just better than floating hands. Let's see what it looks like out of the box. So what you can do is, nothing is transferring when we get here, but we can do a little preview and see what it would look like if we transferred animation. So let's look at the Lola walk. It's not looking too good, looking kind of, but not quite right. So let's stop that and talk about why. So if you go to this chain mapping tab, this is where it is trying to match up your two sets of chains, and some are working and some aren't, because we didn't do the exact same naming convention. So this is the Mixamo chain name, and this is the target or MetaHuman chain name. So spine is fine, neck is fine, head is fine. Left leg does not match the left clavicle, so you're going to have to come in here and say, you know what, that's actually the left shoulder to match the clavicle. Thumb on the left hand is not this one, so it's left hand thumb. This is the ring on the left, so you need to find ring on the left. Now, should you have named all these so they match up magically? Sure. Again, just showing how to fix things in case you didn't, or if something else is kind of wacky. Don't trust the computers all the time. So let's see, pinky on the left hand pinky. This one's middle left. That happened to find it. What do you know? Left hand middle, and left hand index. That one was fine. Clavicle right is right shoulder. Ring right is right hand ring. Pinky right is pinky right. Middle right is middle right. Thumb right is thumb right. We're almost done. Index is index. Thigh right to the right leg. Thigh left also to the right leg, which is why she's doing a weird little hoppy thing. So we need to make that the left leg. So we are really close actually already. So hit play. And we are 95% of the way there. The only thing that's acting a little wacky is their start poses are not the same. So if I hit this edit pose button to put us back to matching T and A poses, so you'll notice that our Mixamo character is in the T start and this character is in the A start. And the problem with that is when you consider what you're transferring information. So right now this arm is straight out, and if you say at the beginning put the arm at a 45 degree, this one also is starting here and would be at 45 degree, which is why her arms seem to be, oops, turn off edit pose, which is why her arms are over crossing, right? They're taking on the same transform that this one did to get here. So it was out here, you rotated 45 or 50 degrees here. This one started here and it rotated to there. So it's properly working. We're just not starting from the same reference point. Easily fixed. It takes a little bit of time, but it's not that hard. So go to edit pose, grab your shoulder. I'm going to turn off snapping here, and you just really need to align your two characters so they have the same starting pose. So I go up here and adjust that. Once you've aligned your poses here, hit edit pose. When we get to the fingers, you're going to be like, goodness, look at that jumble of joint sizes. All you got to do is come down here where it says draw bone size and turn that down a little bit. It's a little extreme at the moment. And then when you're done, hit edit pose. Now, when you hit play, your two characters have an almost, it's getting closer. I'm not going to bother doing every fine detail with retargeting, but say, look at her hand, and let me pause on a good frame for that. Oh, right. Go back to right here. Notice how her hand here has more of that shape and this one has more of that shape. Again, that's because our starting reference poses are not exact. So if you do want them exact, and you might as well, because you're going to lose fine detail if you don't, you're going to have to go back, hit the edit pose button. Notice how this hand is straight out. This hand is got a little bit of a curve to it. Also, our elbows aren't matching, so you'd have to come in here, straighten out the elbow, come in here, and straighten out the hand. So the more time you spend on matching these poses, even the fingers, because if you were to look at the fingers here, they're perfectly straight out. And if you look at them, let's look at from the top view some of the things we see here. So this arm is still a little bit bent, so I would need to straighten that out, because look at this arm, totally straight, totally straight. The wrist here should probably bend just a little bit more that way. Again, you're just matching your two characters, so spend as much time as you want to get those to match. And now if I go back to my perspective view, the wrist shape is lining up more. The fingers aren't, because these fingers are straight in the matching pose and this is bent a little bit. You get the idea. You would just have to go through and make the two characters match their poses, and when you're all done, hit save with your changes. So this again is all preview to make sure that you can do what we're doing now, making them match. Once you're done matching them up and you're good with your results, you would select your animation, either one or all of them. As many animations as you have here from Lola and you want to send to your MetaHuman, you would just, I'll just do one for starters. Say we have walking Lola. You would say export selected animations. Where do you want to send Lola's animation that now works for the MetaHuman? Let's put it in Vivian's folder. We'll put it right here. We've got to right click and make a new folder. Let's call it Anims. So we're going to send this copy of the animation there, and off it went. So let's close the retargeter for now. Again, if you want, you can do more than one here and send them all over. Close that. You can also, while I'm talking about that, let's go back to Lola and look at her animations. You could also say, now I want this walker walk, and I don't want to reopen the retargeter. Because it's already set up, you can also just right click here, go to retarget, duplicate retarget, and you tell it which retargeter you want to use, the Lola retargeter. And this is all set up. It's, even though you have the previews here, it's fine. It'll work fine. It's all set up. So you do need to tell it where you want it to go. So make sure you go in here and set the proper destination, which is the anims folder, and then retarget. Now let's double check the motion on our character. So for that, just standard, just going to set up a level sequence here. All right, so come in here, add our MetaHuman. Now what's also important to go over in this is she's going to come in with her default control rig, right? But in this case, we don't necessarily want her to start with a control rig. You know, we can come in here, we can start animating her and doing her stuff, but we're not animators. We don't, at least I'm not. I'll show how to adjust your Mixamo animations, but for now, go ahead and delete your control rig here on the body, so we won't have a control rig, which is just fine. And we want to add an animation, and let's go find, let me type, what do we have? Walk. There's a lot of other scraps in there. So walk Lola retargeted. Now she's walking, so you could drag out your sequence there, right? So now we have matching animation. This works, but what if we say, you know what, I think her neck's kind of a little too jutty. Like her neck's kind of wacky too. So her wacky neck got transferred to her wacky neck. She's got a really jutty forward neck. So we don't want to take it as we get it. We still want to be able to make tweaks. This is the best part right here. Because we have a control rig already built for the MetaHuman, we can now accept this retargeted animation from Lola and say, thank you very much, Lola, but I'm going to make some adjustments on top of that. So you can now right click on the body, bake to control rig. That's going to make the control rig inherit all the information from this animation, and then you can animate on top of that. So select this. We probably don't want to reduce keys, so just hit create. And it's going to walk through the rig, walk through the character's animation, bake all those positions into the control rig. So now you have an animated character that if you wanted to, you can come in here and start adjusting positions of the character, whether that you need to adjust the hand, or you know, maybe you thought the head was a little too forward, you know, the original one's way out there. You can either, you know, from here you do have to have a little bit of animation knowledge to know about setting keys or using additive or however you want to do that, but just showing you can do this and override what you did get from Mixamo. So it's pretty handy to do that. If you change your mind, you totally mess this part up, just delete the control rig, go back here to your animation, because now you're going to be like, hey, she's busted. Just right click on this animation we used, go to properties and turn it back active. And now she's going to be back doing her thing. So now you've successfully transferred the animation from your giant Mixamo character onto your petite MetaHuman. So coming back now to talk about the walker pose and dealing with the fingers. When we were just looking at the plain old walk, the fingers are, they look fine, I guess. You know, might have to straighten them out a little bit to match, but you don't see anything that looks wacky. So let's look at an example where they do look wacky and we need to fix it. So go ahead and open up the, I grabbed the walker walk, like she's walking in a walker. So you can go grab that one too. And just switching over right at the beginning, you can be like, her fingers look a little kind of weird, which is true. They don't match exactly the other character here. So let's look at editing the pose. And previously I didn't spend a whole lot of time doing much with the hand. Notice that this hand is got like a default bent hand, but then the Mixamo character is perfectly straight. So what you could do is, what you have to do is really just straighten out all the fingers of the hand. One way to do that is if you switch to the top view. Let's get way in here. And let's look at first grabbing the wrist and straightening that. Now, when you're in an orthographic view like this, we're in the top view, your manipulator currently, mine is set to follow the orientation of the object itself. In this case, you might want to switch to world mode. So right here, world space. So click on that little icon so you can see it this way. And then you know which handle to grab, because you kind of only have one to grab. So you would come through here, grab your knuckles, straighten them from the top view, joint by joint, just straightening everything out to match your Lola character. So do that. I'm not going to do all of these. I'm just going to show you a couple tricks in here. Then you can do it on your own time for practice. So again, let's double check what we need it to look like. So let's go check our character over here, go all the way there, and then, pretty much just straight finger. Then you can come look from, say, the left side, come over here, zoom way in again. We got to start turning these up. You could grab one finger if you want, pull it out. You know, it's kind of hard, there's a lot in there, so you could, for a moment, my finger. So you can grab that out of the way, straighten it out first, and then you can go back and put it back. All right, so now I've got that all grabbed. Which one was that? Come here, you. And then put that back straight. So there's one down. Actually, that one's still a little too high, but whatever, you get the idea. Straighten them all out from side view and top view. And then look at them perspective. Make sure the thumb gets a little tricky because it's a little more awkward of a pose. But you would want to straighten all these fingers out. Then double check your back to perspective. I didn't finish, of course, so it's not going to look that great. But maybe whatever finger I grabbed might be a little better. Maybe it was this one. Once you do the pinky, then that'll straighten itself out and such, and things will look good. And there's one other thing that is kind of a hidden setting that sometimes seems to need to be set, which is important to know about. I haven't yet found the definition of what every single one of these mean, even in the manual. But if you go all the way back to your skeleton, if you go to click on here, go to show retargeting options, this column will show up. It won't be set to all of these values, but this is often what you need for retargeting, for things to work correctly between different sized characters. So what you would do is go to this top level root for your MetaHuman, set it to animation, go to pelvis, set it to animation relative, and then for all the rest of your bones, right click and choose translation retargeting skeleton. What exactly is happening here and why this works? I think these are the right settings. Animation or animation scale? I forget, to be honest, which one works. It's kind of the old whichever works is which one that works. If I straighten up my fingers, we might not even see a difference doing this. just honestly can't remember. If it's not this one, try the other one. If things look wacky, then switch to the other one here. But running with the defaults that are in here may not work. This is honestly not facts that I'm presenting you with right now. This is best guess, and I think this was how that worked. So yeah, I'm no expert in this arena. There's plenty of other people who are. If you can find a good video of somebody who explains this very accurately, even in the manual of the documentation, it kind of says you have these options, but it doesn't really go into what the differences are between these options and why one might be better than the other. So if anybody finds a good resource on that, let me know. I'd love to watch or read it. But for now, this is what I usually set it to if things are looking wacky, to get it looking not wacky. That was a lot of information for you. I think it's time to take a little break. Why don't you watch this Lego stop motion and then get back to your retargeting practice.